Hello and welcome to First Impressions. This is a show where my co-host Dash Hooper and I evaluate a new album each week with a few simple ground rules. First, it must be an album we've never heard before. Second, we're only allowed to play it once. After that, we rate it using a variety of categories. Before we started, both of us picked 10 albums from any time and genre. The third album we're going to be looking at tonight is EverGreen, the 2024 album by Soccer Mommy. So, Dash, how are you doing tonight?
Oh, I'm doing wonderful. Had some nice thoughts about this album. Can't wait to talk about it. So
this one, I know you were saying that it's kind of new to you, and we talk about our background. So this is one I have a bigger background with this artist than you do, but that's good. That's kind of what the fun of this show and why I wanted to do it in the first place was I want to discover new stuff and I want to kind of share some of the discoveries that I've had. So before we get started on talking about the album, we'll talk a little bit about the history of the band. So Soccer Mommy is the stage name of Sophie Allison, and she's an indie rock musician, singer-songwriter known for her introspective lyrics, her dreamy, emotional, raw sound. And she was born in 1997 to make me feel very old because it's like that's when I was starting my career. So born in 1997 in Switzerland, but I believe when she was 1 year old, she moved to Nashville, Tennessee, and that's where she still lives today. And she started making music as a teenager. She was recording her songs on a laptop and posting them onto Bandcamp, and that's where she came up with that name, Soccer Mommy. So you can actually dig them up. She's since released all of those early Bandcamp things as early recorded demos, so you can hear some of the same songs. And in 2015, she was enrolled at NYU, releasing these songs as Soccer Mommy. And during that time, she just started to kind of get a little bit of buzz. She got hired by I wouldn't say a major label, but she got picked up by a label, started to do touring, and took a small hiatus from NYU and just kept growing and growing from there. So she dropped out of NYU, focused on her music career, and that's where she is today.
Yeah. That's the one thing I like about what we're doing. I'd never even heard of Bandcamp. And so all these things are new to me. So when you're researching, I'm researching. Mm-hmm. So I it's a way to pick up brand new artists that I would never even know of.
Yeah, and there's another one I can think of that I listen to. This band, he goes under the name Car Seat Headrest because he recorded most of the songs in his car and released them onto Bandcamp. And he was another one that did the Bandcamp thing, just throwing them out there, just kind of, I love that DIY aesthetic. It started back in the punk scene back in the day, but it lives even with music that's not punk rock because they're just, you know what? They're not going to wait for a record label to pick them up. They're going to put their music out there, and maybe it'll do nothing, but if it's just them sharing it with the world and hoping something comes of it. And I just love that aesthetic and that way of the bands doing it. Because Bandcamp would be something most people would never pay any attention to, and yet all the while these bands were throwing it out there. And for every success story like Soccer Mommy, there's plenty that probably got nothing from it, but the being able to put their music out there and let it exist. And now a lot of them would probably use YouTube instead of Bandcamp, but at the time, that was the way to do it. And, try to get yourself noticed that way. So I love that, that was how she started. So the album we're looking at today is EverGreen. And this album is her fourth full-length album. Like I said, she has some of the early demos and things like that. And this one was released in October 2024. So just last month, this one was released. And it's dealing primarily with the loss of her mother. And it's kind of, if you listen to this album, it's kind of her trying to deal with the process of loss through music. So she's never come out and directly stated it, but it's definitely, if you read between the lines, that this one is about losing her mother and, coming to grips with so many things. And I don't want to throw anything into that yet, because right now we're going to be talking about it in a lot more depth when we kind of look at it and talk about what songs really struck us. So she's, yeah, like I said, she's born in 97, which you just think about it like, man, that makes you feel very old, because I know I'm almost 50. I think you're at 50 as well. So it's like,
51,
man,
yeah.
51. So yeah, it's crazy. So for this particular album, let's take a look at the reviews. Some of the albums we can get the Metacritic for, which is a nice way, because it kind of, like Rotten Tomatoes, compiles everything all in one nice, neat place where we can see and look at the reviews all together. So we're going to take a look at the Metacritic reviews for this one. Let me get that up. So at the moment, it is 81 on Metacritic. And I always think about it like, if you're thinking of it like grades, that's 81%. So the Metacritic overall is like a solid B. And we know the Cure one, that one was an exceptionally high Metacritic. This one is doing well. There's some very strong reviews, and it seems to kind of live in that sweet spot of the 80%. And I think what a lot of the critics discuss is that it's just so emotional that they kind of want a return to a little bit lighter and, a little bit different sonic version that they got in the previous 3 albums. But yeah, it's just the deep emotion seems to be the reason that holds it back from being an A album, but still most of the reviews that I've read are very solid in that, A to B range. So they kind of all fall right in there. That 4-star, which is, that's that B range that you get the 80%. So 4 out of 5 stars. So yeah, definitely positive reviews overall. So now we'll talk about our background knowledge of Soccer Mommy. So I'll go first because I know your answer is a pretty short one. So my background knowledge comes from seeing her play a show. She was opening for the band Vampire Weekend. And when I went into that show, I had heard the name, and that was about it. Because I listened to, on satellite radio, there's an indie station, and I listened to that, and I knew one of the songs that they played on that, and that was Your Dog. So she opened for Vampire Weekend. This would have been in 2019. And after her set, I was in. I ran to the merch booth, picked up her album, and, since then have bought her other 3 albums, because that would have been the album Clean, I believe, which would have been her first full-length album. So I ran over, bought the album, and these are actually pictures taken at the show. They were posted on this was a show down in San Diego, so this was in a San Diego newspaper, and the photographer was nice enough to let us use the photographs for this. So this was the show that I discovered her. And since then, I've seen her a few more times live. Whenever she tours, I grabbed the tickets for that. And I missed the kind of the big album opener she did for this album, where she played at Hollywood Forever Cemetery. And that's definitely one of my favorite venues to see a show. It's just a cool, weird, if you want kind of a good creepy vibe, you want to go catch a show at a cemetery.
Yeah.
All right, so let's talk about our overall thoughts on this one. So I will let you go first, since you were coming in completely blind, hadn't heard her before. So what did you think of this album when you heard it?
Okay. So one of my key indicators, and you can even, this is Lorena even knows, like if we're listening to a radio in the car, and my head starts making this motion right here, bopping along, she knows I'm interested in the song.
Yeah.
Don't take this to raw. I know what this song is about. I know what this whole album is about, just like we're talking about. But that first song, the minute it started playing, my head immediate. So I'm hooked. I'm already hooked in that first opening on Lost, and then it goes in and it's a beautiful song. It's a beautiful song.
Yeah.
to start.
It is.
To start. So and then you keep going, and then you get into you think, oh, you go into M, and it starts picking up a little bit, and that's why I'm kind of. I know there's a lot of loss, or she's talking about her mother and loss and everything.
Yeah,
and so I'm kind of on the fence about some of those ratings, because I felt like it picked up a little bit. Driver, some of those songs really rocked to me.
Yeah,
like some really rocking songs. And so again, I have no background with Soccer Mommy, but man, I going through this immediately, I kept, and when it picks up, Driver's a great song, and then you just keep going, and you keep going, and then it ends. So my overall thoughts: this is a beautiful. You can tell the emotions in every song. You can tell what she's feeling in every song. Like Driver, she's interested in somebody. Lost, she's feeling. An Evergreen, she wants something to go. Holding on to things in Evergreen. But man, I continuously, at no point was I ever disinterested in any of the songs. Like we talked about last week, there was a couple, like, man, it could have, if this was played here, I would have turned it off. But she, and her voice, and like I said, we talked about it, her Nashville roots, I know she came over at 1:00, but you can feel some Nashville roots.
Oh yeah.
In each and every song. So that was my overall, and I loved it. And it was like we branch out when we do this show. We branch out here, we branch out here, and I'm glad we did this, because this album makes me want to go pick up 1 through 3 now.
Oh yeah, and I definitely would recommend those ones. And yeah, I think the good thing about her albums is they all have a slightly different vibe. And for this one, I was just, the emotion and the power, it was just such a powerful album about the struggle to deal with loss. And that was something we were talking about with the Cure album when we first talked about that, is, you can't really, a 20-year-old's not going to understand looking at life coming to its close. But when he wrote the song about losing his brother, anyone who's lost, doesn't matter how old or young you are, you can feel that loss. And this is her, even though she's younger, she's only in her 20s, she can definitely feel and process this loss. And she's just, a lot more articulate about sharing her feelings. So you can feel in this whole album, she's just haunted by choices, by places, everywhere she goes, her mother is part of that. So I think what's good on the album is it has a couple small breaks, like Driver you were talking about. That one was written for her boyfriend. And Abigail, that's a fictional love song. It's written for an NPC on
a video game.
Yes. So it's kind of like, all right, we just need to cut the tension. And I like that each side of the album has that kind of tension breaking moment where it's, not just overwhelming and sweltering. It gives you those kind of almost a funny moment, like, all right, I'm going to write a love song to an NPC, and then writing a true love song to her boyfriend. And just kind of, some of those things I can definitely relate with that she's singing in that song. Because when you're married to someone and you're a creative and your brain is always moving a mile a minute, it's nice to have that person to ground you. And I know you have that with your wife. I have that with mine. So it's nice to have that grounding force that surrounds us. So yeah, I feel this album is her grieving process put to music, something beautiful for people who are going through the same thing to listen to. I can imagine that if you're dealing with the loss, it's really going to deeply resonate with you.
Yeah.
But even if you're not, it's just a beautiful album. I'm like as soon as the first song started, I loved it. And it was kind of opening acoustic, and then it kind of built to a bigger swelling orchestra, and just a beautiful way to start. And that was kind of what we talked about, was missing the mark when you start an album gets you off on the wrong foot, but doing it right, just you're now primed and you're ready for this album. And the way you sequence an album has such an effect on what's going to happen later on. So I think the way she sequenced this one it just works. You get
Yeah.
those moments where it kind of breaks the tension of the loss and keeps the album going at a good flow. So where the Jethro Tull one, I would have been critical of its tracking. This one, I wouldn't have any notes about that.
No, and I wouldn't change anything as far as tracking goes. I mean, yeah, you're down, but man, you come up, you stay up for a while,
Yeah.
and she'll bring you down, and then you're back up again. And yeah, as cliche as it is, it's a roller coaster ride of emotions. It really is.
Yeah.
But it's good. It's a good emotional thing. And if if anybody's out there watching, if you don't feel lost, if you don't feel that song, man, it's just nothing wrong with you, but man, you feel it, and you're just yeah. When you get goosebumps during a song, you know it's good. It's a good song. Yeah.
Especially when it's starting the album, you're like, all right, we are on the right foot here. And I think the Cure album was another beautifully sequenced album. I mean, it was put together in just the right way. And I love that they saved that big 10-minute epic to close it out. This one, it feels to me like the opener and closer almost bookmark each other, but they bring a different feeling from her, where the last one is kind of, okay, she's not never truly like that, but she's coming more to grips with it. Yeah. So I think that's something beautiful, the way this album kind of bookends itself with those softer acoustic numbers to start and to finish.
Yeah, and you just go out the way you came in.
Yeah, exactly.
You go out and yeah, like you said, Evergreen, loss is about the loss of her, but Evergreen's about holding on to the memory, never letting go. It's Evergreen, that the memory of her mother or whatever she's lost. The memory's still there, and it will live forever. And that's just poetic.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So, all right, let's talk about standout lyrics. I know I have a lot. I'm sure you do as well. So I'll go. My first one is, I would go from Driver, when she says, "'Cause my head is a highway all of the time and the thoughts race through my brain." And I'm like, oh my gosh, I fully relate to that, because there's never a moment where my brain just shuts up. And I feel like, okay, it is a highway and it's just thoughts are always racing, but she has her boyfriend, and her boyfriend is also the guitarist in her band. And they, he can quiet those thoughts and he can help her get through those, because if you're a creative, you're always thinking. And I love that she kind of expressed that in lyrics. So what's one that grabbed you? What's one of the lyrics that got you going?
Like you, I'm that I'll talk about the one, but I want to talk about the Driver, because it's like one of my favorite songs. And it's that lyric. And it's, for me, it's this, when you're a young kid and you got your, you're in high school, you got your first real high school girlfriend. And this one hit me because I go, when I'm out thinking, I'm driving. That's what I would do. I'd hop in my car and I'm out driving, and you're just like thinking about your girlfriend. And so I thought that was, I hate to use that cliche term that, I'm represented, but no, I felt that. I felt like I wasn't the only one that did that in high school. You know what I'm saying? I know there's lots of people that probably did it, but I didn't feel like I was, I did that. So I thought that was, but this one is Thinking of You. How long is too long to be stuck in a memory? How long is too long to be still thinking of you? And again, this goes to the emotions of the my parents, both my parents have been gone almost 20 years now, but and my daughters always ask, do you still think? And I'm like, yeah, of course I do. How long and to answer that, I think it's never too long.
Yeah.
For some people it might be, but and for some and for me, it's never too long to hold on to the memory, to be stuck in a memory.
Yeah.
And I just, that one was the one that really just jumped out and grabbed me. And, I could just sit there and say the whole entire song of Lost.
Yeah. And that's, I had that one written down too. That's why we're kind of, I'll go one, you go one. 'Cause we could easily end up saying, I could go first and be like, all right, I just took all the lyrics you were going to say. But yeah, that one definitely grabbed me as well. And then let me see, for another one that I got on here, it was where it was Salt in the Wound. And she said, I can feel the trees with fingers stretching out, stretching toward me, but I'm just out of reach. So it's just kind of just all the ways, so poetic to express what's going through her mind. And that's where it's like, okay, that's what separates us from them. It's like, I could say I'm feeling sad and I'm feeling like I just can't connect. And, she's got a way of saying it that just breaks you down. Like, all right, you hear it. And, it's going to be one of those things where I'm sure as she's playing this tour, there's going to be people in the audience that are going to be crying at certain songs. And for her, I wonder, how do you perform them night after night after night? Because it's just, kind of every night, let me just rip my soul out on the stage.
Yeah, that's got to be, I can't speak to experience on that, but it's got to be, whew, yeah. Such a good song. I mean, it was hard. Listen, it was hard. We're going to talk about that here in a minute, which our favorite tracks and whatnot is. But it's hard. It was hard for me to decide that. But I liked Anchor. Anchor's another good song, and just the opening couple of lines, and this is why it makes it such a great song to me. I don't want to think about the way I loved you so. I want to be whole, floating on an icy sea. I thought of something warm. I thought of your love, and I just
it's so good.
Yeah, you're hooked, and that's another thing I like about her. This album, can't say to the other albums, like I said, but I can speak to this one. In every line, there is something that pulls you in, and that's what I love. When you see how I do these, my best songs, the tournaments that I run on my Facebook page.
Yeah,
and I'm trying to get. People will say, "Oh, I like this song," and I'm trying to get them to, why do you like this? Why did you pick Biz Markie's "Just a Friend" over Lenny Kravitz "It Ain't Over Till It's Over"? Because I can tell you, you know what I'm saying? Because Lenny Kravitz, almost even on that album, almost every song pulls me in because I want to hear what's going on, and that's what this Anchor and man, you just feel it and you're hooked.
Yeah.
And she has you hooked to listen to the rest of the song, and you have to, because you want to find out where you're going.
Yeah. And I had another lyric from that song where she said, and all the things I never said are ringing in my head again. And just think about that. Like, when you don't get that chance to say that final thing, and if you did leave someone on a fight or an argument, that you'll always have your apology ringing in your head or something. And I mean, I'm fortunate to have never had that happen, but with loss, I mean, I'm fortunate to have both my parents still, but lost both my grandparents. And you just think, you never really get to say all the things that you wanted to say, because you just don't know when someone's going to be lost. And she's dealing with that, but it's a universal emotion. Just like The Cure, everything that she's talking about, it can ring true for anyone in the world, because everyone has suffered some sort of loss, and you're just going to think about all these things. But the thing about the album is, like you said, it moves, it ebbs and flows, and it doesn't get too sweltering where you're like, all right, I can't keep listening to this. The album keeps you hooked all the way throughout.
It's true. I mean, like we said, even a song about a non-player character in a video game, and you're just like, now you want to know more about why she's hooked to this character, and it's great. I mean, we all have comic characters or movie characters that we get connected to. Like, I could write a book about why I like Dean Winchester from Supernatural. Okay, that's so. I get it. Yeah.
He just wrote a song for it. It's funny because he's like, now I'm curious too. I've never played that game, but who is this NPC, and why did that NPC, how did the NPC generate a whole song? And just kind of, the whole backstory would be interesting to know. Like, what did she see that
True.
NPC and just all of a sudden, like, you know what? I'm gonna marry that NPC, and yeah, just all of a sudden you're writing this whole narrative of what your life is going to be like with an NPC from a video game. So yeah, you gotta love that it throws that bit of levity in there. And even if you don't know what it's about, that it's an NPC, it's just kind of a sweet little song thrown in there that helps break that tension.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's like it's like right in the middle of the album too. So you're like you're talking about. It's just like perfectly placed to get you back into, if you were down, you're back up.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so now let's talk about our best track. So what are the songs that stood out to you on this one?
Oh man, this is one of those albums where I can go literally all of them. Like,
yeah,
but
I could make an argument for every song on it as well.
I can. So, but my if I had to break it down, and while there's, like I said, Salt in the Wound, Some Sunny Day, those were great. M, this is the second song is great, but Lost, the opening song on the album Lost is just perfect.
Yeah.
And then again, I go from feeling down, then I'm hit with Driver, and I'm like, yes. And then Thinking of You, and then Anchor. That's my top four. But again, I can make an argument for why every song deserves to be on this album. And so, yeah, those are my top four because, again, I felt in each of those songs, I felt something for me, for Dash, to connect to. And that's what you want with an album. It's just like we talked about with last week with Jethro Tull. Some of the ones we connected, but we're like, on the other ones,
some missed the mark as well. But when they hit so well. And I mean, that's the beauty of music, and that's why I'm such an absolute fanatic for music, and I'm always seeking out new things, because you want to feel that emotion, that connection that only a good song can bring you. I mean, there's a connection you can get from a good book, but music it's a different feeling. Right. It's like, all right, you in 3 minutes, you're just gonna, completely tear my soul apart and put it back together. And I'm gonna go back and do it again. Cause it's like, once we got our first listen done and I took all my notes, I'm like, all right, I'm immediately gonna play this thing over again.
Yeah.
Like, all right, I made sure I took all the notes. Like, all right, no new notes are allowed. But now that I've done it, I want to play it again. And this one, I mean, kind of spoiling, because we're talking about whether it goes to the used bin or not. But I think it's easy to know by how we're discussing this album that neither one of us are throwing this one in the used bin.
And if you're a creator, if you're again, this kind of goes back to The Cure. But if you're a creator, this is an album for you for those emotional times. If you're an author, this is for an emotional time in your book and you need inspiration, throw this on. If you're a painter, throw this on. Man, that's what I like about music as well. When I'm in a rut typing and I need some inspiration, I'll throw on Harry Potter soundtracks. I'll throw on some country music because I'm writing a Western. So I'll throw on some of the country tunes to help me throw myself in which way to go. And so this is perfect. Like if I get to a point in my book where I need emotions, I'm throwing this on. Here you go. I have no problem with that.
We found two like that. And it's I think this one is a pretty easy category. Skip this one. I'm saying leave it alone. I don't need to press skip. I'm happy it's on vinyl, because sometimes on vinyl you're like, oh, I could just get past this, but it's more effort than it's worth. But this one, I'm never tempted to pull that needle off the record.
It's a playthrough. It is a playthrough, no skips, no nothing. And it's definitely a replay. This is one I would even let my daughters listen to.
Yeah.
Because of the there's no negative lyrics to me. There's no. And I my daughters are young, 7 and 6, but I would have no problem if I was listening to this in the background, having them come in and just sit down and listen with me, because I think they would enjoy it.
Yeah. Some of her love songs get edgier, her kind of
Yeah.
breakup songs, but this album doesn't have those in it. But even any of her albums, there might be one or two where you're like, okay, we're gonna get past this one. But in general, like they're pretty kid friendly. Like I said, a couple
Yeah.
of her breakup songs get a little edgier, but yeah, for a 7-year-old.
Yeah.
But my kids being 18 and 14, both of them could listen to this. And I think they did, because I was playing it in the living room and everyone just kind of stopped and listened, because it's that's the beautiful thing is, okay, TV's off, everything's off, and you're just going to sit and listen to this album. And every time I've done it, the people, everyone in the house has joined in with me and listened to the album, and they're kind of making their thoughts. And I'm telling them, I say nothing until I've written all my notes, because I don't want your notes to come into mine. But then afterward, we'll discuss it. A lot of times we'll play it again. We'll go back to those songs that we really loved. And yeah, it's like we only are allowed to play it once. But once we played it once, made our notes, know what we're going to talk about for all our big talking points on the show, then yeah, a lot of them you want to go back to. And even if you're not going back to the whole album, there hasn't been an album that we've looked at where there's not songs where you're just like, oh my gosh, I have to hear that one again. And, you're immediately going back. And for this one, the skips wouldn't be there. So it'd be an easy CD. You just let it play, and easy vinyl as well.
Yeah. I find it kind of funny that you said that some of her breakup songs. I got a 90s or 90s 2000 Avril Lavigne feel from her in the way she sings, her tone. So I could see some of her breakup songs probably being a little risque, but no, I mean, there's nothing wrong with that either. Like this is, we know about music, and you're going to express yourself. So why not express yourself in the song? And if that breakup song, you need to say the words you need to say,
yeah, then you go for it.
Yeah, go for it. So, but I think that's why, again, I liked Driver, because she's in love.
Yeah,
she's in love, and she's wants and she feels it. And then again, an anchor. She needs that. That person was her anchor and kept her grounded. And I say it. Don't hold back on your lyrics. If you're an aspiring songwriter, lyricist, poet, whatever it is, man, just express it. And you won't be sorry. I guarantee it.
Yeah, no reason to hold back. And that's the beauty of this, is she's just laying it all out there. And it kind of, it connected me with a few other albums. It's probably one that you haven't heard, but the band Touche Amore, I don't know if you know them. They're more of like a post-hardcore band. And he wrote an album called Stage 4 that's entirely about the loss of his mother. And I kind of went back and listened to that after this one, because they approach it in such different ways. I mean, she's softer, more melodic, and he's just screaming his lungs out about what happened and his mom. And he basically tells the real story of everything as well. And his mom died while he was on stage. So he was out touring. She gave him the blessing, but in the album, he's talking about how his family is angry at him. Like, how are you out there instead of being here with her? And he's like, well, this was something that we talked about together. And she wanted me to pursue my dream, but he just lays it all out in a raw way, the same way. But those are the two kind of albums that deal with loss, both of their mothers lost from cancer at that. And I just hear those, and it's just like, letting a band just kind of let it all out. And I just imagine with him too, like, how often do you want to perform those songs when you just have to get out there and rip your heart out? And he'll throw single ones here and there into the set, but he did a tour, that band did a tour a few years ago where he played that album in its entirety. I'm like, oh, that's got to be hard, because that's just going through the entire process of the loss. And this album does the same thing. But like you said, an artist, it's great that she can do this and not worry about, okay, maybe the reviews won't be as well. Maybe I won't get 5 stars in Rolling Stone this time, but I don't care. This is the album I want to release. This is the story I want to tell. And I'm not worried about, Pitchfork giving it a best new music. It's not about that.
Yeah. Again, I don't talk much about but that's how my mom died of cancer. I was deployed.
Okay.
I made it home just in time.
Mm.
And so I got to, but I know where he's coming from, even where she's coming from.
Yeah.
So, the whole time I'm over there, that's all I'm thinking about is being back home.
Yeah.
I know she's going through it, but yeah, let him scream it out. Yeah, now you got me wanting to listen to this and see. That's what I like about when we do the show. And you've introduced me to a couple of times when I've asked on my Facebook, hey, what's a good album? You give me some as well. So yeah, that's what I love about when we do this show and people will come in on the comments and request something, because it is something that I don't know if I would have ever picked up Soccer Mommy had you not requested it. And now it's probably one of the best albums that I've heard all year. Literally one of the best albums. And here I am, I would have missed out on that. So that's why I like when we do this. And that's why I wouldn't skip not a single song on this album.
Yeah. And I agree. It's definitely on my top 10 of the list here. And I'll put that together for the year end. So sometime before the year ends, I'll put a top 10 list together of what my favorite albums of the year were. But, spoilers, the Cure album, this album are definitely making that list. Those two will be on the list. And then there's some other good stuff that I found throughout the year. But yeah, it's just amazing. We have comments. So, all right. So, yeah, thanks for having us on the network.
Thanks for having us. Yeah.
Yeah. So this, I think we're both in agreement. This album, I went in with high expectations because as an artist, she's someone I really love. And like I said, when I saw her that first time down in San Diego, I love it when I see a band that I love so much that I am racing to that merch booth. Like I need this album. And then when new ones come out, I order them from her website. So I have, like we saw in the intro, the cool colored looking vinyl and the green colored vinyl, which is perfect for her EverGreen. So I like to get those, and I got the autographed copy of it this time. So with hers, it's one of those things where she's an artist that I trust enough to always pre-order it before I've heard a track. Like I don't need to hear one song to know that what's going to come out is going to be good. And she hasn't let me down yet. So, 4 albums deep, and every time it'll be an instant order. And then, whenever she plays, I get out to those shows as well. So I think February is when she's rolling around LA for this album. So I will definitely be there for that one.
Well, that's awesome.
All right. So last one. I mean, this is the most pointless category ever for this one, because I think we've said enough to let you know we are not throwing this one in the used bin. It's going to be a revisit one, plenty of times. And I talked about the Touche Amore album for Stage 4. Also, there's a couple songs. I don't know if you've heard the song For Martha by the Smashing Pumpkins. That's another one where he talks about the loss of his mother, and just a beautiful song. And then Wings for Mary, which is a huge, epic, sprawling 2-part song by Tool. And that's another one where he's kind of giving a tribute to his mother who had died. So, it's not like a genre I want to seek out, but when I heard this album, it made me go reach for those songs again, because they're just such powerful songs, or, in this case, full albums. And unlike this one, Touche Amore does not give you a breather. That album is just like being a punching bag to his emotions and just going through it all. So I appreciate her for giving you those moments of, okay, I can breathe again, and then we get right back into the dirt. So yeah, easy call for me. Definitely keeping this one, throwing it on my top 10 for the year.
Yes, Peter Chris does. I don't know if you guys can still hear me. I think we lost him. Peter Chris has a song, and I can't pull that up, but The Cat album. I love that song. Yeah, this is definitely a revisit for me. 100% revisit. It's a 5-star. I don't care what Metacritic has to say. Well, I do care what Metacritic has to say, but
yeah, Metacritic just compiles reviews, so it's like, all right, Pitchfork, it's a 7.1 or whatever you want to give it, but I'm not with you on this one.
This is a 5-star. If you guys have followed any of my music reviews and my book reviews and movie reviews, I go on the star system. This is definitely a 5-star listen. It will definitely go on the continuous. It gets played because I have my vinyls listed as ones I can play all the time, ones every so often, and ones rarely that I'll play, but I still keep them. But yeah, this one will go into the listen to all the time.
Oh yeah, and then he was talking about Peter Criss. I could hear, but all of a sudden my internet froze for a moment, so apologies on that. But yeah, Peter Criss has a song about his mother's death. I got to seek that one out. I've never heard that one. My wife is a Kiss fan, so something I'm sure she owns it, so I got to grab that one. Album. Okay, very cool. All right, so now we'll talk about what we're going to be listening to next week and exploring, and we're going to go back in time a little bit, and we're going to be looking at the Blue Oyster Cult and what is the name of the song?
Agents of Fortune.
Agents of Fortune. Sorry, there's my bad eyesight rearing its ugly head. But yeah, Agents of Fortune. It has Don't Fear the Reaper, so there's my knowledge of this one. So yeah, I'm gonna definitely enjoy exploring this entire album over the weekend and kind of digging into something where I know one song from it, but haven't had the opportunity to listen to it in its entirety yet. So it's something to look forward to.
And that's what I'm hoping, because everybody loves Don't Fear the Reaper. Or I think most everybody loves Don't Fear the Reaper, but I think that overshadowed the album. And so I'm curious. I've never heard the album. I have heard Don't Fear the Reaper. I've never heard the full album. So I'm curious to see where this takes us. I picked this one for me. I picked this one for a reason, because, like I said, you've probably heard one song because the radio overplays it or plays it a lot.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping this will lead us into what did we miss? We hear this one, but this is one I'm hoping that we say, oh, wow, we missed this because.
Yeah, it had all these gems on it, but Don't Fear the Reaper. And I have found albums like that. And you've also found the ones that are those kind of one good song and the rest of the album is skippable the whole way through. So I'm really curious to see where this is going to land, and coming into an album like this completely fresh, it's going to be fun, because it's an album, it's an older, and the fact that I haven't visited it is just crazy. And then after that we're doing the Songs in the Key of Life from Stevie Wonder, and that's another one. It's here's an album that has been out forever. It gets a lot of love, and I've never played it. I know the couple radio songs, so it's going to be a lot of fun over these next couple weeks. We're going to be looking at some older stuff. So my first few picks were both albums that had just come out recently. The next ones we're going to be looking at, the next 3 that'll close us out up until Christmas, are all older albums that, to finally give our time to and finally give a full listen to. So really excited about next week and the next few weeks. So thank you for joining me again tonight, Dash. It's always great talking music with you. And
I enjoy it.
Be back this time next week, and we'll be talking about Blue Oyster Cult. So Agents of Fortune, tune in for that one. If you know the album, let us know what you think about it. And if you have an album that you'd like us to listen to, we have a few suggestions already, but drop it in the comments. Let us know what you want us to listen to. Our first 10 each are picked, but after that, it's wide open, and we're ready to hear what you think we should be listening to.
If it's a brand new one, if you know a brand new one is coming out, let us know.
Please. We'll shuffle our schedule to make sure if it's a new release that's going to be coming out over the next few weeks, then let us know. We're happy to shuffle things around and do that. I'm thinking probably January is when we'll start seeing the big new releases again. December's not normally a great time for new releases because at this point it's top 10 of the year list. It's not let's put out a new album. They already wanted to be in there for that consideration. So once January rolls around, we should start seeing the good new releases. And if there's a top new release that's coming out, we don't care what the genre is, can be any genre. Let us know. We are happy to cover it and get it on this show, and we'll move things around to make sure that we can do that.
Excellent.
All right. Thanks so much for tuning in, and we'll be back again next week.
Yes, sir. Looking forward to it.